Great. Good evening, everyone. So great to see you. So many people in the public. This is a great site. We're all here, which is also a great site. The time is now 7:30, and this is the February 10th, 2022 work session of the Allendale Mayor and Council meeting. Welcome to everyone who's here, and we are still streaming, joining us via the Zoom webinar. So hello to those people. And Tyler and John, the camera's rolling. Everyone's there. Okay. At this time, we ask that the public please mute your devices so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There will be an opportunity during this meeting for public comment. There'll be 2 other opportunities during the regular session, and we'll advise you at the appropriate time. Michelle, please read the Open Public Meeting Act announcements.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and on the borough website, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting by the February 8, 2022 Sunshine Notice was sent to the record, the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger, and has been posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and borough website.
Great. And Michelle, please conduct the roll call.
Councilwoman Holman. Here. Councilwoman Lovasolo.
Here.
Councilman O'Connell.
Here.
Councilman O'Toole.
Here.
Councilman Sassa.
Here.
Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Here.
And Mayor Bernstein.
Here, thank you very much. Today, to start the work session, we have a presentation by the Lee Memorial Library Executive Administrator Patty Durso and some esteemed members of the Board of Trustees. It's a pleasure to see you. I know we had requested mutually, that you come twice a year to give us an update, and we're thrilled that you're here. So.
Right, we're going to just important when the library comes, we bring a little library swag.
Yay.
I hope
Just
it's chocolate left over.
We're not getting book reports, are we?
No, no book report.
All right, thank you.
Everybody's got their own. And if this is not your size, please forgive me. Trade for bigger or smaller. We have all sizes. That's important.
I'm a double X medium.
And,
Thank you.
Can I help you?
yes, thank you. This is for.
Here,
this is
grab one.
Wilsinski. You want to do 2 of those?
Yeah.
And I'll do that. Great. All right, and this is for.
Suzanne.
Thank you. I returned my
you.
library book on the last day. I had to make sure that I didn't
Thank
have
you.
a fine.
Purchased one of these at
We won't pay
the
that dime.
Red Barn when they had their, yeah.
That's awesome.
One for.
So my girls were like,
Someone-
it's
and
awesome.
one
Okay,
especially
that's
for director.
Cool.
Just so you know what you're getting there. That's a nice Lee Memorial Library long sleeve t-shirt.
Oh,
Nice.
It's got
Yes.
a nice card magnet and
I was admiring those on festival day.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Patty.
And people can use this for their shopping bags.
Shopping.
Because the plastic
That's
bags
exactly the
coming
idea.
in.
Yes, the idea.
Good thinking.
So thank you so much for the opportunity to just share a snapshot of the Memorial Library's recent achievements and some of the exciting things that we have on the horizon tonight. Before I begin, I would just like to recognize trustees of the library who are here in the audience.
Please do.
The library vice president of the board, Jackie McSwiggan. Boa.
That's the old sewer lady.
Hey, how are you?
She got promoted.
Wow.
Library secretary of the board, Sarah Dunleavy. Library treasurer of the board, Jill Webb. And library just past secretary of the board, Jim Wright. I know you've got a lot on your docket. I am going to go at mock speed. I have, I'm just going to give you a visual. If you would take this in and pass it down,
Certain.
and we're gonna take a look at what it looks like,
Big picture.
and we'll go through it. All right. Apart from the government mandated shutdown between mid-March and mid-June, and for a very early part of July, the library has been open with full service and fully staffed since early July of 2020, and have maintained all of our services and our public service hours. So how do we do in the past year? So what you have in your hand is kind of a year in review of 2021. Even though it was still semi-pandemic year this past year, we had over 50,000 people come to the building to borrow materials or participate in programs and things like that. But we also needed to be pandemic nimble. So we made some adjustments. One of the things we did was institute something called porch pickup. So if you did not feel comfortable coming into the building, you could come to our front porch and we would hand out your materials to you that way to a table with no contact. So we had 2,360 people do that last year. So, you add those up and it's a significant number of people who come to the library on a regular basis. In terms of services, we used to have an on-site tutoring center down the hall, and you could come here after school. Tutors could come with students. They had a quiet place to be, and we couldn't do that anymore, right? We didn't let people sit down and use computers for a while. So what we did was hire a subscription service where you could be tutored live by a human being online from, all day long, after school till 10 o'clock at night, 361 days a year last year. So we really provided a lot of services to Allendale children that way. And we hope that we offloaded some of the difficulties that parents encountered with homeschooling. If you've ever notarized or needed a notary, I think Allendale has become the notary center of the town. We only notarize documents for our own residents. We notarized 2,060 last year. So that's been consistent for a number of years. The pandemic did not send people away. As a matter of fact, with more people working at home and not being perhaps in an office building where maybe there's an attorney or there's someone who is a notary, that business is expanding. We have every door home delivery in Allendale. You do not need to be ill. You do not need to be old. You do not need to be infirm. If you want materials from the library, we will bring them to your front porch. We did that for 264 people last year. In terms of borrowing for this little library, we lent 101,948 items last year, which I think is an
That's awesome.
Amazing feat.
That's
And
clap-worthy.
I say it on behalf of the staff and the board, but we're down compared to 2019, but we're only down about 5%, which is really remarkable. I guess maybe it's not that surprising because 81% of Allendale residents have library cards, which is, we're in the top 5% of all the libraries in the Bergen County Consortium, which is 77 libraries. You can't have a library card unless you're 5 years of age. And I think there must be some toddlers and infants around, right? So 81% is a very impressive figure.
Did they ever expire?
Yes, your library card expires every 3 years.
Oh.
Okay, so if you haven't renewed it recently, that's kind of my pitch at the end. If you haven't renewed it recently, we'll be happy to do that for you.
If you know, this Councilman doesn't play poker.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's why we know that statistic is right, because about 900 people came off this past year. Okay, so this is an up-to-date number of the people who are here. 81% have a library card. So now what do people do with these library cards apart from borrow books and media and things like that? Well, of course, during the pandemic in 2020, we saw our electronic downloads go through the roof. It used to be about 5% of our borrowing. And it went up to 16,000 borrows in 2020. Well, this past year, we even exceeded that. So it tells me that there are some behaviors that people became habituated to during the pandemic that will persist. And it's just another channel that we can serve our residents. If you ever travel for business or you go away on vacation and you don't want to use that iffy hotel Wi-Fi that's not secure, you can get a free mobile wireless hotspot at the library. Take it out for 2 weeks. You can renew it and take it away with you. Go to Hawaii, go to Florida. Our hotspots have been in China, Tanzania, France. They've been all over the world, and you get secure cellular service with these hotspots. And then apart from using the technology, borrowing the books and media, taking advantage of our services and coming to the building, particularly children after school, because we get at least 50 children a day in the library after school, often more. People come for our programming, which is, our signature. So even last year, where things were, kind of mellow because not everybody was comfortable coming on site for things, we had 568 programs and events, which were attended by 9,593 people. Again, we think the population of Allendale is about 6,765 people. This is pretty impressive. We started 8 new book clubs, and 891 residents received free admission to a museum, and the aggregate savings was $17,800. Okay, so, and that's a real wonderful thing to offer. As a matter of fact, we had several museums. Now we're up to 14. We've added 4 new museums this year that were not on our docket before. So there are plenty of places to go. You come in, you get your pass, and you get free admission. You get discounts in the restaurant and the gift shop and all sorts of things. You don't have to wait online. You're a member, all sorts of good stuff like that. So that's what we did, which was a good start, especially through these times. And would you do that again?
Absolutely.
This one is what's to come in 2022. All right, I talked about being pandemic nimble. And what that means is we're not waiting for the public to return or feel comfortable. We're asking, how do we get out in the community and how do we provide services? One of the things that we're going to be doing, was I mentioned before, we have a notary, and the notary is very popular, particularly now that people are working from home. Well, New Jersey passed a law in 2021. It's only a handful of states in the country that is now allowing something called RON, remote online notary. And, normally when you notarize something, you have to have the person in front of you. They have to present evidence of who they are. You're verifying their signature. Well, now our notaries will be able to get advanced training and will be able to be eligible for an electronic seal. And they will be able to notarize documents over the internet. So you can just, from your phone, you can be where you are, you can get something notarized. This is going to be, it's going to blow everything up. It's going to be great. So we continue to try to be pandemic nimble.
We think highly of Ron.
Oh, beg your pardon? Ron, yes, yes.
We love Ron.
Yeah, it's his namesake. So we also asked ourselves, in addition to all the other things that we do, you can use the Consumer Reports database, Rosetta Stone, Ancestry, etc. We always had that. What could we do last year since people couldn't come in and read newspapers and things like that? So we got digital subscription to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. We registered 1,937 people for these subscriptions. Now, the Wall Street Journal digital subscription is almost $2,000 a year for one household. The New York Times is $800 and some odd a year for one household. We did it on behalf of every Allendale resident. So if you read the New York Times, you read the Wall Street Journal, and you want to get into all the things you can do on that site and not just get the top line headlines, you can do that with your library card. You go right to our website under digital services. It'll say Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Click it, you click, it gives you a redemption code, and you are in. All right. We were also just awarded a statewide competitive grant. And it's called Just for the Health of It. And what this is technology devices, iPads, that are provided to a library. We had to compete for them, and we were selected. These devices are loaded with health apps, and you will be permitted to have live, in-person, virtual telemedicine appointments with physicians, real MDs, with these devices. They come with a support team of librarians who have advanced certification in consumer health, and they will be helping us roll these out to the community. So if you're a young mom and you've got maybe 3 young children, and this one maybe seems like she has a fever, but you're not sure, and should I take her to the doctor? Should I get to the urgent care? I've got the other 2, one's at ballet. Maybe you want to just use this iPad. You can take it to the privacy of your home. You can use it here if you wish, and get an appointment with a physician, and perhaps a referral if you need to do something further. If you are a person who maybe is somewhat more on the margins, as we know that there are in anywhere in society, this could be a very, very helpful thing for people who are residents in our town who maybe need a little extra help if they don't have those resources themselves. One of the things that kind of took us by storm last year was that people were really interested in doing home projects, home craft projects, because they were home. So we trademarked a name called Casually Creative Craft Kits, and 1,247 of them went out last year. I meant to bring a couple of samples up. I'm sorry I didn't, but people, they need to register for them. They're that popular. And when they sell out on the first day. And so that's another way that people are using the library that they did not traditionally. And finally, we are very happy to announce that we've had services for English services for speakers of other languages in the past. However, we went through a period where we just didn't have enough volunteers to be the tutors. And then, of course, in the pandemic, it became very, very difficult. So we've partnered with Literacy Project of Pascack Valley, Literacy Partners of Pascack Valley, rather. And we have now sent in the first month, 11 Allendale residents to a 4-day training certification to be ESL tutors. And we have already in the first batch, 11 people signed up to pair them with in the first month. So who are these people? They're all Allendale residents. You have to be an Allendale resident to participate in this. They are originally from Japan, Romania, South Korea, China, Colombia. So we've got, literally the face of Allendale, as we all know, has been changing for some time. And there are people who we may feel their English is adequate. We can understand what they're saying, but they want to improve. And they can only do that through conversations with people. And they also find that it's somewhat isolating to be the person who is from somewhere else and perhaps presents with an accent that it doesn't sound American. And so they want that refreshment of learning. And that's something we're going to be able to provide to them. So I think you can see from what we've done and what we're planning on doing, it's a real broad array of services. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is what's going to be probably our signature program this coming year. And Ed, if you would do the honors again.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you still have books over there?
And we still have books. Yes, as a matter of fact, what Ed's going to pass down to you is our new initiative. And we love books. Books, reading, literacy, lifelong learning, connection, access. That is our mission. However, we found in the last several years, there is a move toward, once you have right-sized the number of books you have for your population and for the level of demand, that there's an interest in what we have called borrowing beyond books. All right, so we're doing it already with museum passes and hotspots and things like that. But we're now going to be doing it with additional devices. So if this is basically a diverse collection of tools and machines to help our residents pursue hobbies, conduct business, harness technology, and relish entertainment. So if you look on the back of that sheet, you will see we're going to start with about 20 to 25 types of things that we're going to be lending. So for example, under technology, we're going to be lending, and this will all start in the beginning of March, Chromebooks. And our school children have Chromebooks, but many adults do not. They may travel, they may have a need to take something lightweight, something that doesn't require, that they can use in the cloud. So they'll be able to borrow a Chromebook from Lee Memorial Library. I probably can't be the only person here who still has something on an old VCR tape, but we're going to have a digital video capture and conversion from VCR.
Oh my God, I just spent $650 on iMemories.
Yeah, yeah, I did it a couple of years ago myself. And this is going to be very, very popular because now you can take it home, do it at your leisure. So that's going to be VCR, but we also have it from, lots of different. So for example, we'll have, and we have multiple photo and document scanners to get things into digital format. We have, for those of you who may remember this, there's a thing that used to be called negatives when there was this thing called film.
And haven't done
there were
that yet. So
even
Mike's like, I don't know what you're talking
who,
about.
in addition to negatives, they took pictures and they took something called slides. So we're going to have a negative and slide scanner that will convert to digital format. So you can put it up in the cloud, you can put it on your hard drive, you can put it on a thumb drive. And that will be very useful to our patrons. Laminating machine, check engine light, right? What is a reader that lets you know before you take your car into the mechanic, really what is the problem? In terms of business applications, we have a portable projector, which I only wish Councilman Homan, we'd done this a year ago with all your presentations.
Oh, there will be more, don't worry.
But a wonderful high definition portable projector, a tabletop projection screen, 50 by 50, a Blue Yeti microphone, a block rocker, portable speaker. And you could use some of these things at home too. In addition, for home entertainment, we're going to have a portable projection screen for indoor, outdoor. It's 4K HD. And if you want to have a movie night at your house, it's 115 inches wide. A Victrola for people who still play vinyl. We have Amazon Fire TV sticks now for people who want to, have the internet over their TV or stream Netflix or Amazon Prime. If you're into hobbying, there are a lot of people who are very interested in crafts in our town. So we've acquired a machine where you can do all sorts of cutting for crafters. And binoculars and a smartphone mounting device. And then, of course, our ever popular Kindle Paperwhite handheld e-readers. So this is a collection that we're going to be starting with. Many libraries are doing this now. They call it the Library of Things. You can look it up in Wikipedia. It's been around for a long time. I don't like that word things. So we decided ours is called Borrowing Beyond Books. So we will have the full complement of everything we have ever offered, because we're a town of readers and we're a town of people who are intellectually curious. But we recognize that media and the way people use information is changing, and therefore we believe that this will be a very popular program. So I did promise mock speed. I just would like to tell you, in addition to all that, the programs that we've had this year, I told you how many they attracted. They're very, very diverse. We have one coming up next week on George Washington, New Jersey, and the Revolutionary War. We've got a great one coming up on nutrition. I think Councilman O'Toole was at a program recently.
Absolutely.
You went to the
Yes, he
chocolate
went.
one.
I went to the
Yes.
chocolate tasting. You tell me there's chocolate, I'm there.
Yeah,
I was one of two gentlemen right in this room. It was fantastic.
good. I'm glad to hear that. We had the week before, we had an electricity workshop. We had a gentleman who does a 3-week program on home electricity, and so we maxed out on that. You could come in, learn how to replace the light switch, install an outlet, hang a chandelier, that kind of thing, fully subscribed. So a one on electric vehicles. What do you need to know? Should your next car be an EV? So we're really trying to address what happens in people's real lives. And as I say, with a broad array. So I would be delighted to answer any questions you have, but beyond that, I do want to just thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and for giving the board the opportunity, not only to present to you tonight, but to have the privilege to be here in Allendale. And it is a privilege for me to have this job. And I really, truly appreciate your confidence and your support. So if you have anything that you would like the board or I to discuss further, fire away.
So what you squeezed into 22 minutes is amazing. To say that you are pandemic nimble is an understatement. What the Board of Trustees have done in very trying times is amazing. People say Celery Farm, Crestwood. For me, the library is certainly one of the jewels of Allendale, and you navigated through wonderfully, beautifully. What you've done, there's always a smiling face there, everyone wants to help. Libby, etc. You could not, from my point of view, I know I'm biased, you've all done an amazing job. Sarah, Jill, Jim, Jackie, Patty, the rest of the board. I know it doesn't happen organically. It's a labor of love for all of you. And I know it just, from my point of view, not as the mayor, but as a resident and as a book lover and a reader, what you've done is beyond.
No, thank you. Thank you
So,
very much on behalf of the staff. Thank you.
I say that from the heart. I throw it open to anyone else who wants
Yeah,
to.
I mean, I just want to say bravo. I mean, this is unbelievable. It really is. I mean, I keep up to date with your newsletters that are always so informative as well, but seeing it all laid out like this and just how you've managed to capture the cutting edge of what people really want is amazing. So it's just really well done.
Thank
That's all
you.
I'm gonna say. Really
Thank
well
you.
done.
I want more spare time because I want to, I'm like, okay, I got checked off the Cricut, the negative to slide scanner, the laminating machine. It's great. I know it's good. So just,
Thank you.
thanks. And it's.
Yeah, I've used
Nothing on water? No.
I've used the hotspots. They're fantastic. We
Right.
have some succulents at home from one of the kits. And I utilized the New York Times.
Wonderful.
Can't play the crossword puzzle with that.
It's the
but
only thing
it's
they
the
don't
only
allow.
thing we
Right.
can't do.
Crossword puzzle.
Right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's-
So
couldn't do it
Councilwoman
anyway.
Wilsinski mentioned something that I just want to close with, which is that we have a weekly e-newsletter that comes directly to your email box. With your permission, I would like to just subscribe all of you to it. And it's 2 emails. One is for adults and one is for children. I'd like you to get both, just so you sort of know what's going on, throughout the library. This past year, we hired a very dynamic young woman as our new youth services librarian.
Mhm.
And if you go to Crestwood Lake, all the parents are talking about her.
Mm.
If you, if you're in the schoolyard picking up a child, the parents are talking about her. She really was kind of born for this work, and she's transforming that department. One of the ideas that she had, for example, was to bring in what they call therapy dogs.
I
And she's
saw
got
that,
3
yeah.
different dogs. They come with their handlers.
Yeah.
They come into the library. They're very well trained. In the summer, we're out in the gazebo, and the children are so comfortable going up and just, the children pick up a book and read it to the dog because it's very non-judgmental, it's very easy. And even if they can't read, they kind of get the context from the pictures and they read to the dog. So I can tell you that since last May through January, we've had 2,461 people, parents and children, come and read to a therapy dog. That's a whole lot of people to come read to a therapy dog. It is so popular. And as I say, just in addition, it's the first time since 2004 that the library is essentially fully staffed. So we have someone handling an adult program. We have a youth services librarian. We have a director. We have an executive administrator. And we have a very committed staff. And therefore, I want you to be aware of everything that's happening. And I, once again, appreciate any input that you have. If you get these newsletters and decide you'd like to see something more, or you have some concerns, please let me know.
I love
you.
to see the newsletter. Yeah,
Thank
that'd be
you.
great.
Yeah, all right,
I want to see the
terrific.
therapy dogs too.
Yeah.
Patty,
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
folks.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
So. Right, so what I'm gonna do, rather than open the meeting, agenda review, I will go over the agenda in the regular session. And rather than open the meeting for 30 seconds for public comment, I will open it up during the regular session 2 times. You can, on the agenda or on any, so no one will lose their opportunity to speak. But we're running out of time and we have another presentation at 8 o'clock. So I am going to ask for a motion to conclude the work session.
So moved.
Second,
O'Connell.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Give us 2 minutes or so to get set up and we'll start the regular session then.
That's the chocolate.
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you know what kind it was? The name brand?
Hey, Peter, I'm Steve. We met, but we had masks on.
They have
How you doing? I'm kind of still, not quarantined.
Ah.
Suppose there's the-
Whatever.
I expect to have a CD like this one.
Yeah, I'm fully back.
I didn't get it.
Thanks, buddy. There was some lint.
There's some real-
There was more varying degrees of
Cacao.
solids. And they're delicious.
Awesome.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah, my son had to stay out of wrestling for 10 days, high risk. they call it.
As soon as you say you're ready, he's ready.
I'm sure that's where he got it.
All right, Patty, I'm on the website. How do I sign? I want my dad to get the emails.
Yeah.
I'm just, I figured you'd help me quickly. Read and listen on your device.
Don't take it in the bathroom.
Ron, on those rough days, I think the therapy dog,
Yeah, right.
I think that's a
We
play
should
for
get
you.
therapy dogs for our home.
That did in Durst.
They should come
Durst
up
got
and-
done in. Peter's up front on the left,
Yeah.
dark.
Steve, did you tell
Well,
him?
you know what? Suggest that to the library, put them right in.
Quick,
15 minutes.
10. 10 minutes.
Change the channel, will you?
Have a good
Good
night.
night, good night, Joe. Thank you.
Right, I think we could just keep Liz's meeting off tomorrow. Anyway. Okay, Liz?
Other place, people start
We're just gonna
shaking.
keep the water meeting off tomorrow. Even if you don't come.
Because you guys love to
Yeah,
be
we just-
around me
it's-
so
it's become
much.
So much. It's
Just
just-
afraid of like withdrawal, people start shaking.
Yeah,
They don't care.
exactly. Especially when I'm
And that's-
grumpy.
and that's your new member. No.
You're such a gentleman, Ron.
That's what I was telling them. The guy.
Oh, my gosh, they were like petting.
I must have did several projects with him at the county. He kept saying, you're always so helpful at the county. I don't remember these guys at all.
Look him up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a good source of info.
I'm liking the therapy dogs for the water meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Come on, you hear mine every once in a while.
That was a cute dog out there, the lady had, yeah.
That's so funny. I love that. Ron, before the meeting, I had cleaned off my computer because I knew I hadn't used Microsoft Teams before. And I'm like, I'm gonna share my computer and it's probably gonna come up like my nasty checklist and all.
My first time I did it, I couldn't get, you couldn't hear me, so I shut off and I joined Teams. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. You know what I was doing this morning? I couldn't get on. I was trying to link into the Tuesday meeting.
I feel bad because once I'm on the meeting, I don't really look at my phone, which is
Yeah, I
not
mean,
good.
we
Sorry.
Then I realized it's Thursday.
No one
Yes,
behind.
no.
If
Oh,
you
yeah.
want, I think they're ready to go, so
Okay.
if
But Steve asked us to hold. But Steve's very pleasant.
So how are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you Peter?
I am.
I'm Ari Bernstein.
Good evening.
You and I, so we're going to open the regular session and then give us a couple of minutes to get through some of our stuff and then we'll go to you.
I think you crack it up. Steve can just join again.
Yeah, so let's start. Tyler, John, we're on, great. So the time is now 8:03.
working. It is.
We're good. This is 8:03. This is the February 10th, 2022 regular session of the Allendale Mayor and Council. Welcome to everyone who is joining with us in person and via Zoom webinar. At this time, I ask the public present to please mute your devices so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There will be two opportunities. Because we didn't open up for public comment during the work session, we will make sure that everyone has an opportunity during the regular session. And we'll advise you of the appropriate times. Michelle, please read the Open Public Meetings Act announcement.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and on the borough website, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting by the February 8th, 2022 Sunshine Notice was sent to the Record, the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger, and has been posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and borough website.
Great. Thank you. Please all rise and join me to salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, please conduct the roll call.
Sure. Councilwoman Holman. Here. Councilwoman Lovasolo. Here. Councilman O'Connell.
Here.
Councilman O'Toole.
Here.
Councilman Sasso.
Here.
Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Here.
And Mayor Bernstein.
Here. Thank you, Michelle. So we have a presentation in the regular session, Peter Lupo. But before to you, I want to invite Councilman Sasso to introduce Mr. Lupo.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lupo and I met at the New Jersey League of Municipalities, although we've been communicating before that. 5G is which he'll explain, so I won't spend too much time on that, is coming. It's here in some other communities. It's important for us to know what it's about, how it impacts us, how it can help us, more importantly. And Mr. Lupo's firm has been, in a resolution, has been retained to help us down that path.
Great.
That about sum it up.
That does.
That's Steve Kemp.
And you also work with a lot of other towns in the area, which you could tell us.
Sure.
It's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor. First want to tell you what a good staff you have here with Michelle and John. You have a very good staff working here. Very great, good way, dealing with them. Everything got done very quickly and smoothly. So you're very lucky to have such good people working
We
for
are.
you.
Thank you. We certainly are.
So the purpose of today's meeting is to give a little bit of an overview of what 5G is, give a little understanding of some changes in the industry. I'm a lawyer by trade. I'm a telecommunications attorney, so I deal with FCC law. I represent Bergen County as a county and about 20 other municipalities in Bergen County and probably another 20 throughout the state. So this is my bread and butter. This is what I specialize in. So I was going to give you a little bit of an overview, and John, if you go to the next slide. So just give you a little understanding of 4G versus 5G. Right now, primarily we're using 4G, which is about 20-year-old technology, rolled out probably in the early mid-90s, and we've been using it for about 20 years. And the primary method of deployment on these 4G towers is on the right-hand side. It's a monopole, as you can see, usually about 150 feet tall, maybe a little bigger, a little small, depending on the area and the coverage requirements. You see it's a big steel structure, usually stands out. If you're on Garden State Parkway, they look like Charlie Brown Christmas trees. They look pretty sad versions of a pine tree, but that's called a stealth solution. You've seen them around. And on the left-hand side is a good example of what a 5G installation is going to look like. Roughly a utility pole, 38-foot high wooden utility pole. You see them commonly in the streets. A little whip antenna. You see a little gray thing on top. That's the antenna. And then there's a shroud about halfway down. You see a shroud and some wiring for power requirements. And that's what a 5G site looks like. Nothing really too crazy. It'll blend into the community, but that's what it looks like. Next slide, John. And to give you a little understanding of what 5G looks like from a spectral point of view, from a radiological standpoint, left-hand side is what a 5G site looks like. And you see the red, the pinkish reddish salmon maybe color is the hotter area. Blue is a little weaker. And that's the coverage overlay of a 5G site. On the right-hand side, you'll see a macro site, and you'll see that the signal propagation is what we call it in the industry is much greater. It covers a much bigger area. So 5G site covers maybe about 1.5 football fields, give or take, versus a 4G site, which could cover many miles, depending on different factors like foliage, which absorbs a lot of the radiation, and other factors, population density. But you can see the big difference between the two. Next slide, please. And here's a little bit of an anatomy of a small cell site. As I alluded to before, you'll see an antenna on the top. You'll see some wiring that runs from the equipment shroud. That's where the radios are. That's what allows the unit to transmit and receive frequency. And then you'll see a little disconnect at the bottom, and then a wire that runs to that. It's going to be the fiber backhaul. It's going to be able to run everything and also power. So that's what a small cell site looks like. That's what a 5G site looks like.
What's that, a meter?
It's a meter, yeah, meter disconnect. So what they'll do is have a little meter pan there, and they'll measure the amount of consumption, and then the power company, PSEG, whoever it is, will then invoice Verizon, AT&T, whoever it is, whose site it is. No further questions. I'll move to the next slide. Well, as I mentioned before, I'm going to give you a little bit of like what's going on in the industry. A lot's changed a little bit, and I'm in frequent contact with Steve. You know, he's, I think, a person that's interested in the field and has a very good knowledge of, you know, what is happening in the industry. But I figure give the benefit of everyone else understanding what's going on. Next slide, John. So some of the things that is going on, I mentioned before, small cell sites. Now, what's made a little more in 5G, what's made it a little more complicated is very recently, AT&T Verizon just purchased very old satellite communication technology. And what the range is, it's what they call sub-6. It's less than 6 gigahertz. So it has a very, very longer range than a 5G site. So there's two different types. There's a millimeter wave technology, which has much, much faster ability to upload and download data. And then you have what's called sub-6. Now, I know Steve just, what you went ahead, you said that you saw ultra wideband, UW.
Right, we were texting back and forth.
Texting and back and forth about it. You see the big difference between 4G and 5G. And even on the lower end of 5G, which is being deployed out under the C-band, it's still a significant improvement, as I know you did a little measurement.
Yeah, I forget the numbers now, but I did a data test. So I got 5G on my phone, but I know there's not 5G here. So Peter explained to me, well, it's not quite 5G. It's somewhere between 4 and 5, let's say,
Roger.
to make it simple. And I did a data test. There's an app you can download. There's many of them, and I could test the upload and download speeds, and it was amazingly fast. And it's not even 5G.
It's not the true 5G that's gonna be rolled out.
Right.
So for Allendale and lots of parts of of Bergen County, a little more spread out, a little more less urban, say, than Cliffside Park. Cliffside Park, they just put in 80 poles, utility poles, and Cliffside Park has that, they having true 5G, the millimeter wave. That's partly because Cliffside Park's relatively close together when it's densely populated compared to Allendale, compared to Ramsey, compared to Mawa, which is a lot more spread out. So the way I anticipate things to roll out in terms of 5G is that Allendale most likely wound up getting I hate to say lower end, but the lower end 5G first. They'll do the C-band that Verizon AT&T just purchased. So they'll do a simple swap out of equipment on their tower, and you'll get the 5G. You get the ultra wideband, which is a significant improvement over what you have now, but it won't be the true ultra fast 5G. What I expect is the C-band will have coverage gaps. So they will put in these utility poles as infill. So you will have 5G in the area, and eventually what will happen is it'll reach its maximum technological limits in terms of how much data it can send and receive. It will eventually put in the true 5G, but I don't anticipate, if I'm looking at the tea leaves, the wireless telecommunications tea leaves, that it'll actually be anything other than C-band for now, for at least 5 years, if I was guessing. Next slide, please. So I'm sure a lot of people have read the New York Times. I know, were you the one who mentioned you go to the New York Times, or you did, right? It was New York Times, can you use a crossword puzzle? Yep. New York Times covered this pretty extensively. And some of the things that were discussed was an altimeter in the planes. And the concern of the FAA was that the 5G would start interfering with the altimeter. And obviously pilots can't gauge distance to the ground, the landing. So there's a big concern about it, but they've come up with a new solution for it. So they're gonna be able to coexist with the C-band and the altimeter. The FCC just, FAA, I think, just approved an altimeter that'll work and coexist with 5G. But that's a little something that's happened, and it's being resolved right now. It's a bit of a clash between two big federal regulatory agencies, and I was sure I was going to play out, but it looks like they've come up with a technical solution for it. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I was mentioned before, the macro cell capacity, there's going to be exponential growth. It's over time. They're going to start seeing applications, for example, self-piloting cars. That's going to come. The FAA just approved autonomous drones, helicopters, basically to deliver medication. So it's called Flirty. There's a company who just got FAA approval to actually use drones, which is incredible. It'll come to your house at this cabling, it'll lower, whatever it is that you order. I mean, it'll be relatively small in size, but nonetheless. But once they start deploying that, it's going to start gobbling up data, and they're going to have to go eventually go to the faster millimeter wave technology, which I anticipate coming 5 to 7 years maybe down the road. So one of the things I do is, the wireless industry is continually evolving. One of the things I'll do is periodically come in here and give updates. I think everyone's concerned about the aesthetics, installations, how it's going to impact community, and other things that you might be excited for when technology does come. And that'll be something that I'll continue doing and keep contact with Steve and come here periodically at the will of the mayor and the board to continue giving these types of updates. Next slide, John. One of the other big trends over here, there are some other consultants out there. Next slide. And what they're trying to do is make modifications to ordinances or introduce an ordinance and try to put in what they call a stealth poll or kind of a poll, and they try to sell it as some sort of good solution. Usually these things are quite a bit bigger than utility poles. You saw the example of the utility poles that the carriers put in, and they basically put it in the ordinance and they themselves sell the poles themselves. So they kind of write it into the ordinance and then they force the carrier to buy it. And it winds up being a violation of the FCC and the Telecommunications Act because of the expense and because you're dictating where you have to go. And it makes it prohibitively expensive for the carrier, and it prohibits service in some way. And it makes the town legally liable. Belmar, New Jersey is being sued right now because of things like this. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Next slide, John. And here's a good example of what some of these stealth poles look like. They don't look realistic. They don't blend in the background. Wooden utility pole that's conventionally used just blends in. This, in my opinion, at least, never really blends in. It stands out, and I don't think anyone's going to drive by and think that's anything other than something else than a light pole. Next slide. Here's another example. And I give a little bit more about the FCC, why it's a violation, but you see this doesn't really kind of fit into the community. Next slide. And I'll give a little bit of an update on 5G law summary. Next slide, John. So Telecommunications Act, there's 3 big laws. There's a Telecommunications Act under the Clinton administration. That was the big thing called TCA. More recently, there's an FCC small cell order, which regulates shot clock rules. You have a very short time in which to go ahead and start approving it from the time the carrier comes in with the application. They also put a cap on how much you can charge. It's the safe harbor period, safe harbor dollar limit of $270. And then Spectrum Act of 2012, that is something that also quite modifies what a municipality can do in terms of regulating 4G in the community. So 2 different acts. One governs the macro sites, which is usually on either municipal land, most common on private land. And then, of course, the FCC Act of 2018, which regulates utility poles in the public rights of way. 2 very different ways of deploying it. And those are the acts that are really applicable here.
So wait, they've set a limit as to the amount that can be charged to AT&T or
Yeah.
Verizon
So
or-
what happens is what they'll do is they'll probably wind up putting their equipment on a utility pole in your public right of way that you manage. And the FCC put a cap of $270 per pole per annum. So if you have a utility pole, you don't provide a utility pole. It's kind of not a bad deal, for the municipality. They're going to put it up. You have no way of really preventing it, and you collect $270 per pole per annum.
But they're huge.
The utility poles?
No, the thing on the top.
Well, if you looked at the picture, it's just a little whip antenna. It's a little gray antenna on top.
It's no worse than a transformer on an electrical pole.
Yeah, the shroud is maybe about a microwave size on the midway, and then at the top it's just like a gray.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what a small cell looks like right there. Yeah, here's an example of what it looks like. It's a 38-foot high conventional wooden utility pole. There's different configurations, but that's a good example of what a 5G wooden pole looks like. And then the thing that I do, which I think is very important in the ordinance, is that make sure that we don't have a propagation of utility poles in the community. You want to keep as little as possible. So the ordinance is drafted in such a way that you minimize the number of new poles. They're required to recycle existing infrastructure. What'll happen very often is they'll have a utility pole in there that's either abandoned or underutilized, and they have to show proof why they can't use an existing wooden utility pole rather than put a new one up. So we put a burden on them as part of the ordinance. Also, if it matches the historical area, if you have a downtown area has wrought iron, like Rutherford, for example, on near Main Street has all buried utilities. There's nothing that runs down the main street that's above ground. They have all these wrought iron decorative looking poles. In that instance, if you put up a utility pole, they'd be forced to trench, and they would also be forced to use some sort of decorative utility pole so it matched the streetscape. So those are the types of things that keep in there in the ordinance. Recurring annual fees, as I mentioned before, and then make sure the permitting approval process is streamlined so you don't get in trouble with the FCC shot clock. I'd work with your construction department, make sure that gets taken care of quickly. I'll review all the applications. I'll do a report, be a kind of a zoning report showing that it complies, if the application complies with the ordinance and FCC, and then make a recommendation to the construction and zoning department to issue a permit based on that review. And as I said, make sure that's fine. Yep. No, good. Next slide. So make sure some of the things I've done is minimum space requirements, make sure they're not clustered together. Make sure it adheres with ADA requirements of wheelchairs. I've had Verizon put in telephone poles in the middle of sidewalks and violated the ADA requirements. People with wheelchairs and children, parents with children couldn't pass by these poles, and they ripped it up and relocated another area, repaired and replaced the concrete, at least in 3 occasions, once in Edgewater and 2 places in Cliffside Park. I had them remove their utility poles. So those are some of the things to make sure you remain ADA compliant. Site triangle clearance, make sure that the utility poles at the corner are not blocking the views of the drive when they get to a regulated intersection. Those are other issues. Next slide. Some of the things that you might want to do is signage prohibition, that the carriers can come there, putting kind of advertisement up there. Obviously, it's a beautiful bucolic town. You wouldn't want, big billboards up there or whatever it is up there with neon lights advertising Verizon, or so you want to keep it as much as noise level limitations. Make sure there's not a humming and buzzing noise. I include that in the ordinance. It's something Upper Saddle River, one of the residents and council members there brought up, and I incorporated into the ordinance. Restriction on lighting. Make sure everything is kept in such a way to keep as inobtrusive to the community as possible. So, and then of course, I will make revisions to the ordinance for any kind of laws and state laws that impact these constant lawsuits, and I keep you apprised of that and make suggested changes to the ordinance as needed. Next slide. That might be the end of it. Okay. Yep, that is the end of the presentation. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to field any.
So, Peter, when we spoke at the land use committee meeting, when you presented to us, you had mentioned that while there's no immediate plans for Allendale right now, it's really good for us to be thinking about this now and for you to be here helping us draft the ordinance to protect the town and its residents as well as possible. And I actually wrote down that your role is to help us also claw back some of the control of the placement of the towers.
Yeah, so some of the things we discussed is, within FCC limits, make sure you have as many, well, for example, make sure they're separated by a certain distance, make sure you recycle existing utility poles, make sure the carriers co-locate. So if AT&T says we can't use existing infrastructure, we need to put up a utility pole, what I make sure is that Verizon comes in and they have to co-locate on AT&Ts if it's possible. So those are the types of things that because the carriers would prefer to be on their own utility pole. And I put the burden on them to show why they can't use the existing utility pole or another carrier's utility pole to reduce that type of explosion of utility poles in the area.
Good, thank you.
So we're kind of like, we used him. Peter's a veteran, by the way. I don't want to embarrass you, but he's a veteran. And so we use the analogy that he was using in the military. We're in a hurry up and wait situation. So we're going to hurry up, then wait, and we'll be ready if it comes next week or in 5 years, wherever it is. The net of it is that 5G is a good thing, in my opinion. I mean, we'll get a lot of things out of it. I mean, smart cities technologies will rely, right, on
Absolutely.
5G. So one day we want to have our traffic lights networked and cameras in the right spot.
Gunshot detection is another thing for the police department.
Right.
Yeah, well, not that you worry about it here in Allendale, but nonetheless, yeah.
Well, we like to be prepared.
Yeah.
5G will help us do that. So we're going to get married with 5G carriers at some point. So we want to make sure the relationship is as good as possible. And that, I think, is the net of it.
The thing that is important about having a 5G ordinance on the books is that if you do wind up getting, where you have a carrier come, if you don't have an ordinance, you're stuck with the default FC setting.
I was
Sorry.
just about to ask that.
Yeah,
So
so-
we need to do it now, because if you're not prepared.
Right. If they do come there, you're stuck with the default FCC standard, and then, which is fine. I mean, but a lot of things I'm putting in there are not part of the FCC boilerplate language. So for example, noise, the advertising, to make sure you're having properly separated to reuse existing infrastructure, all of that is something I put in that it's not part of the FCC. So, and aesthetics, for example, I also put an aesthetics standard in there. That is not part of the FCC model template that they issue out. So that's another importance of having that in there. And one thing I should also do is check your existing 4G ordinance. I was just in Fort Lee last week. They had a 2001 ordinance on record for the macro sites as to 4G. And I'll check that as well, see if it needs to be upgraded and updated for the 2012 law. So that's something I'll do as well.
Okay, just again, for the land use committee, Suzanne and myself and everybody and the public too, what's the next step for the borough?
Two things. I'll take a look at your existing macro, your 4G one, to see if it needs to upgrade. It almost certainly does. And then also a 5G ordinance, which I'll craft for Allendale, submit it to your town attorney, borough attorney, have him review it, make any kind of comments that he thinks on it. And if he agrees and we consult and he likes it, I'll make a recommendation to the board to either adopt it as is or revisions or whatever he decides. He's your borough council. And then, I come on the day of and explain the ordinance is usually what I do for any members of the public, and hopefully you pass it.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. One last thing. Thank you for reminding me. It's also very important to point out that Mr. Lupo and his firm are paid by the carriers who make the application. This does not cost the taxpayers of Allendale anything. They will submit escrow like anybody else making an application to develop. So it's a great deal for us. It's a win-win.
How is that in the ordinance?
Yeah, so it'll be written in there that basically the way it works is like any other land use attorney. If you have a zoning, if you have a construction company that's looking to build a development, they would put money into escrow, and then the land use attorney, I'm assuming the zoning board attorney invoices against that amount of money. And the ordinance does spell out that they have to put in, $1,000 per pole into Allendale's account, into your escrow account, and I invoice against that.
But it's already been memorialized in the resolution that appointed you our 5G attorney, for lack of a better word, in January at the reorganization. Was that the reorganization meetings? That the funds come from the carriers.
Correct. Yeah. So you don't pay me. You don't pay me.
We're already covered there. Just in the ordinance will.
I'm sorry,
Some
since
work
I haven't
there.
been on land use, what are you paid for by them? Like, obviously for us, we're getting the service of having the resolution crafted and all that, but how, so they have to put it into escrow, but what exactly then
Do I do?
are you billing for?
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned before is when they come with the application, I make sure it complies with the ordinance. Make sure that, for example, the height of it, distancing, and what I do is I maintain a tracker. It gets pretty confusing after a while. And for example, it was Edgewater. I caught a few times where they were violating the distancing requirements between the poles. So what I do is I maintain on GIS tracker, for example, I plot out all the poles. Some of the other things I failed to kind of also mention is I'll get a health and safety report, something that you're going to invariably have issues with. People in the community are going to ask, like, is this causing cancer? Is it propagating COVID? I mean, you're going to hear a lot of things like that, and people are going to have reasonable concerns. I mean, they're going to have poles sometimes in many cases in front of the homes. You're going to look out your window and it might be, eye level with you, and they're going to worry if it's causing cancer. And one of the things I do is make sure we have the FCC health and safety reports showing that it's suitable for continuous human exposure. I upload that, and if you want to add it to Allendale's website, as a lot of other municipalities have done, you can click on the, look on at the 5G overlay, put in your cross streets or your lats and longitudes, and pull up the FCC health and safety report. So a resident, a business owner could look at it, say, okay, this is safe. So I do a number of things like that. I also show up on the day of the installation, make sure nothing goes wrong, make sure they're billing it to the plans, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a fair question.
Great. And we've, although it's your first time here, we've spoken of you and we've spoken of 5G. Councilman Sasso has done a great job advising and notifying, informing the board, but we're thrilled to have you here in person.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we look forward to working with you.
Same here.
And thank you for coming all this way.
Of course. Thanks, Steve.
Great. Okay, thanks so much. Now I'm going to open up public comment on agenda items only. For those that want to speak not on agenda items, if you can just wait to the end of the meeting, which shouldn't be long, I will open it up for that. So on agenda items? Yes, you may. What's that? I know on agenda items. No, his presentation is over.
Yes, it is part of the agenda.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
do you want me to get him?
Okay. All right, thank you. Public comment on agenda items. So anything, and I understand you we'll get you an answer to any question that you had. Not seeing anyone. Approval of the minutes. We'll request a motion to approve the July 8th, 2021 minutes, July 22, 2021, and August 26th, 2021. Councilwoman Lovasolo, you will need to abstain from all of them. Councilman Sasso should abstain from July 8th and August 26th. And Councilwoman Wazinski should abstain from July 22, the July 22nd. Should I do them separately so that, or can they just,
I think it's better to do them separately, given all of that.
okay. I would request a motion to approve the July 8th, 2021 work and regular session minutes. So moved. Thank you, Matt. Second?
Moment.
Great. Michelle, please conduct the roll call. This is July 8th, 2021, and Steve, you must abstain.
I was in Rehoboth.
You're gonna still need to abstain.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lovasolo.
I wasn't here yet.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Abstain.
and Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes.
Great. Next, to approve is July 22nd, 2021, work in regular session minutes. May I request a motion?
So moved, O'Connell.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Roll call, and for July 22nd, Amy, you need to abstain, and Suzanne abstain.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lovasolo,
Abstain.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wilson.
Abstain.
Great, thank you. And then the final set of minutes is August 26, 2021, work and regular session, work and regular sessions. I would request a motion to approve. So moved. Thank you, Matt. Second,
Second.
thank you, Amy. Michelle, please conduct the roll call. And Steve, you're gonna need to abstain.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lovasolo,
Abstain.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Abstain.
and Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes.
Great. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. I didn't get a chance to review or see if there are any questions during the work session. Most of these are routine. Before we get to a motion to approve the consent agenda, we are honored to have the chief of police here. Chief, there are two here, 2285, which is to appoint Michael Loprinzi, full-time dispatcher, and 2286 to authorize the amendment of the interlocal agreement. We're thrilled to have you here if you want to speak to either or both of them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 22-85, appointment of full-time radio dispatcher Michael Prinzi. He is a dispatcher, was a dispatcher in Moonachie. My apologies to the Moonachie Police Department. He's ours now. He will fulfill our full-time staff, and he starts his training tomorrow night. Resolution 22-86, authorizing Saddle River's re-entry into the range consortium. Saddle River Police were a part of our range group. They left to seek other avenues, but because of various renovations that have happened over the past year, they want back in, which is great for us. We benefit by sharing instructors for active shooter and baton training with Saddle River. Range improvements include a training area for group instruction and increased safety measures.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The dog license is the extension that I'm going to speak to in my mayor's report. 2287, that approved the contract for the municipal park improvement. Amy, did you want to speak
I'll
to
talk,
that?
I'll talk about it in my report.
Okay, and then Ron, did you want to speak to the,
No,
yep,
not necessarily. It's just
okay,
doing business.
good, all right. So I would, with that said, any questions? Oh, I would request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Sasso.
Thank you, Steve. Second.
Second, Lovasolo.
Thank you, Suzanne. Michelle, please conduct a roll call.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lovasolo,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Yes.
Great. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Committee reports. Councilman O'Connell?
Thank you, Mayor. DPW, the pickup of Christmas trees during the month of January went very smoothly. The DPW was also addressing 5 snow and ice occurrences so far, which they did a fabulous job with. And Dan Richards needs a pat on the back for supervising these operations during the snow and ice events. And meetings to discuss spring projects have begun. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Sasso?
Thank you. So I'm new as the chair of the Facilities, Parks and Recreation Committee this year. Amy Wilsinski has been the chair of that for a long, long time. So we have not met yet, although we have been talking a lot. As far as the parks and rec are concerned, but the weather, there's really not a whole lot to do. And tell you the truth, with the facilities, Ron's got a well-oiled machine going. If there's a sewer backup or this goes on or that goes on, Ron's got it. So we haven't had a real need to meet, but we've been talking because before you know it, the weather will get nice again and we'll be back to Crestwood and stuff like that. We talked a little bit about some bands, Michelle, right? Some possibilities. I mean, I'm going a little stir crazy. I would love to get out and go to a free concert at Crestwood soon. So we're talking about that. We also had a meeting yesterday with an Eagle Scout candidate who is in the back tonight. He has a project, and I think you're going to come up for a couple of seconds for us, right? Yeah, if that's okay. Is that appropriate at this time?
Why don't we do it when we open at the end?
Yes,
We'll
I'm
do it
sorry.
that time. No, that's
Okay, so, so I'll set it up for you. So Boris will tell us a little bit about his project that he is thinking about doing, and we met and we looked at some locations and what else? So the other thing is, I'm sorry that Jim Wright left because today's Town Journal has a nice picture of a cardinal on it, which Jim took. And there's a story about how birding has become popular during the pandemic. And here's a picture of Jim. Right. So that's the lead into a kind of a sad story. I've been talking about, well, Jim brought it to my attention originally. We've been talking about it in land use. And we passed a resolution back in August asking for a voluntary ban on poison rat traps. And the reason is that they're really effective for killing rats, but the rats run off with the poison and they die. And then another animal eats them and they die. So somebody in town who does a lot of walking found a dead Cooper's hawk, which I think might be endangered by Dunkin' Donuts. They called Jim. Jim took it for necropsy, I think is the way you pronounce that, which is basically an autopsy for an animal. And it was confirmed today that the hawk died of rat poison.
So is there a way we can mail out this ordinance to all of them?
So Jim and I talked and we said, we've got to do, I want to say a better job, but we really haven't done anything on the reach out. We passed the ordinance, which was great, but we haven't really told anybody about it. So we have to do a better job on that because I don't want to be melodramatic, but I mean, I see bald eagles in Allendale now. And there's a bald eagle drops dead because of rat poison. That's not going to be a good thing.
What?
It's not a good thing when a Cooper's hawk or any
No,
other, or a fox or a mink also that we have in Allendale. So anyway, Jim and I talked today and I said I would cover for him because he had to go.
I have 2 questions. Number one, at the mayor's meeting, is that something that can be brought up or to bring to the attention of other towns, or can it be communicated, by you as a?
Well, other towns would be good too, but I'd like to just to get Allendale on board.
Well, that was my second question of, do we not, Michelle, have a list of all registered businesses that are in town, and can we have a letter just sent out from the borough that alerts them to this, whatever we call that ordinance?
It's a voluntary, it's a resolution, voluntary ban. We're asking people nicely, please don't use this stuff.
So I'm just wondering, is that something that we can
They're legal by law in California, but everything else is too. So that's.
So to answer your question, I think, yes, we could do
Yeah.
that. Years ago, we did that to a company on Borough Line Road that we knew that was using them and sent them a letter. I don't think they responded, but it's at least a little bit more than what we've done.
Yeah, well, we
in the
could
past.
we could certainly get the word out, right? And I can discuss it at the Northwest Bergen Mayor's meeting to see, to see what they're doing and.
And I
And
believe
honestly, we should put it in our newsletter too, because.
It's
what-
been in the
it's been in the
you know,
newsletter.
Oh, I forgot. Well, and anyway.
And there is also, I believe, a Chamber of Commerce meeting
Yeah,
next week
so-
too, where we can bring it up, because I know the green team, we're interested in kind of spreading awareness about our reformation, and it's definitely something that we've been championing as well.
Yeah, I
My
just feel like
feeling
it's
is the
peer
biggest
pressure.
offenders with the poison bait traps probably don't come to a chamber meeting.
Yeah, well, the other thing true is, I mean, yes, unfortunately, this bird was found in Allendale, but there's we're not sure that it consumed
Allendale.
an
rat.
Allendale rat or something. So we can absolutely lead by example and start encouraging our businesses, but once again, like, we don't know that this
Right.
is where it originated,
That's
so.
right. It's a good point.
Is there any way of notifying the exterminators that might be putting it out as well?
Well, we could, but they're allowed to do anything they
Yeah, I know.
want. It's
Yeah,
really,
it's all
it's
voluntary.
really up to the customer of the exterminator to say, don't use that. Don't use that on my property. There are other options.
The borough has not.
Yes, thank you, by the way. Yes, right.
Well, and that should be shared too, that we do that.
And these traps are used because they're easy. You leave them, you just set them and
Some people might
forget
not
'em.
realize. They just might not
Exactly.
know.
They probably don't know. I didn't know. Makes perfect sense though.
Yeah.
And by the way, your dog could pick up a dead chipmunk one day and play around with it, and that would be a terrible thing too.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's, I think that pretty much covers it, but, and then Porus, when he has the opportunity,
Yes, yep.
we'll talk a little bit more about the project that we're talking about.
Good, we're looking forward to, we're almost there. Liz?
So the Water, Sewer, and Public Utilities Committee continues to meet weekly. Every Tuesday morning we meet.
It
and
seems more than weekly.
Well,
I'm just
we are
saying.
officially on the
Took
books,
my
only
spot
for
on
weekly, but
Tuesday.
we did take the 220-230 spot,
Right,
but
and then there's other days.
and then there's other days, and then
Right.
there's Thursdays, and there's Fridays, and there's lots of meetings, but we meet really to continue that the details are worked out around the sale of the Allendale water system, and that it's worked out to the benefit of Allendale residents as well as Suez, who is our highest bidder. So that's good. It's very detailed work, and I could not be more grateful to our team members. And particularly today, we had a lot of really good meetings. So I'm personally pleased, but I think our whole group should be feeling good. We are targeting to have the purchase agreement completed by the end of the month. That's obviously just one step. It still needs to go to the BPU. We still have a long way to go until we actually complete the transaction. We do also continue to work with Suez on temporary PFAS. I know I've talked a lot about PFAS, but if anybody has any questions, they can call me. But we're continuing to work on temporary treatment for the New Street water treatment plant. Allendale Water has remained in compliance with all NJDEP guidelines. As a reminder, the MCLs, the maximum contaminant limits for PFOA is 14 parts per trillion, and for PFOS is 13 parts per trillion, which is really like a grain of sand in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But these numbers do continue to creep up, and in Allendale, and we are seeing communities all around us in violation. There's really been multiple public meetings, and many residents feel that they had not been alerted that there even were things such as PFOAs. And I really feel that in Allendale, our council has supported open communication to residents and, an opportunity for any sort of dialogue. So while we hope that we, remain 100% in compliance, there may be, a situation where sometimes these numbers do creep up, and the measurements are so small. But we are working with Suez and hope that by early 2023, we would have temporary treatment in, and then the permanent treatment is down the road. So thanks so much. We're hopeful to have another public meeting sometime in March to give more details. So stay tuned.
Great, thank you. Amy?
Sure. in admin, finance, and HR, we're still just gathering budgets from all the departments. We've had one meeting already and another one. I'm waiting for Alyssa to get back with some dates. There is so much going on with water, and I really want to thank the water committee. Just because the referendum passed does not mean the work is over. So I just commend you guys. I'm glad, Suzanne, you're on the team now. So still meeting with residents. We met a bunch today, and I actually attended the MAWA public meeting with the complaining residents. And I really do have to commend you, Liz, because I think we're ahead of the game. All these towns now are freaking out because they have PFAS in their water, and they're looking to scramble to sell, and we didn't do that because we were ahead of the curve. So we just got to get past these next couple of hurdles.
Team effort.
Team effort. So Crestwood, as Steve mentioned, we are gearing up already. So Capture Point is sorry, I just got to watch and it's like buzzing. I don't know what to do with this thing. Capture Point is the program that we use for Crestwood Lake that has been amazing. However, we have not had any badges for the past 2 years. So we're concerned that Borough Hall is going to be inundated with them. So they have a new system that we're looking into. We're going to meet with them next week, and hopefully that'll be instituted right away next year, and people can scan their own badges and it won't be as clunky, and they can register at the lake. The Bergen County Open Space Grant that we talked about is for Crestwood also. It's a $75,000 grant from Bergen County. It is for a PA system, which we desperately need. Our PA system went out, I think, 2 years ago. It is for just very slight lights going into Crestwood Lake. We're going to be actually reusing our old downtown lights, but they're going to be more of atmosphere lights. It's not going to be all lit up. Some trees, and we're also going to be fixing some of the Momi mats that we have there. And 220 West Crescent, we're still number crunching. There's lots to consider. My next step is to do a presentation to the council, and that'll probably come sometime in March. And that's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Public Safety Committee met on February 1st for our monthly meeting. We discussed a few ongoing projects, including body worn cameras that will be implemented once everything is all set. Chief Dillon's been working with Covant Solutions to prepare for the body worn cameras, making improvements to computer systems and police headquarters. Chief is here. I don't know, he's going to speak to a couple of things, so I don't want to take his thunder. I know he's been working with AVAC Chief Bataro with the new owners of the nursing home in regards to an increase in non-emergency transport requests at their facility. So that's an ongoing thing. Chief Bataro and I will be meeting in the near future to discuss means of making sure that we have adequate coverage for calls in the daytime. Finally, Mayor Bernstein and myself, Chief Dillon, we attended the fire department's annual dinner this past weekend. It was our first dinner in a couple of years after a hiatus. Awards were given out for firefighters of the year, along with a lot of awards for those firefighters with the highest response rates. So congratulations to all those guys. Thank you all for all that they do. And because everyone loves the numbers, year-to-date fire calls, 37, year-to-date EMS calls, 102, and year-to-date police record entries and calls for service, 1,854. That's all I got.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your report. You can, without further ado,
Sorry,
Councilwoman Lovasolo.
Well, this will be quick. So we are scheduled for our monthly land use committee meeting next week, next Wednesday morning. So I'll have more to report after that. I think we have a pretty full agenda. We have some individual resident challenges and concerns to look over, as well as kind of purviewing or overseeing some some of our maps and some other issues that we're going to start taking a look at and fine tuning. So I think we're going to have a great meeting. I look forward to reporting on it next time.
Thank you very much. Mayor's report, not too much to report. We have had a lot of other meetings. Matt, you mentioned the fire department with ambulance corps. So the weekends have been filled with good events celebrating the different groups in Allendale. We had a storm just this past week 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I heard, and no one had any need or reason to butter up to me, but I heard over and over how great the streets were. And
Allendale Rose, yeah.
yeah, I mean, just over and over and how great. And I never like to bash the other towns, but they said I could tell when I entered Allendale and when I left Allendale. So, and I know, you and the crew, I mean, every chance I get, you guys did a great job. So
I'll let the guys know.
yeah, please do. Dog and cat licensing, one of the storms fell on the proposed weekend that we were going to do the licensing. So that got, our free rabies clinic has been rescheduled to this Saturday, February 12th from 1 to 3 at the Red Barn at Crestwood Lake, Crestwood Park. It's open to all residents of New Jersey whose pet's current rabies vaccine expires prior to November 1, 2022. And due to the rescheduling, we've extended the deadline to register pets until the following Monday, February 14th at 4 p.m. So late fees will not go into effect until the next day, until Tuesday, February
And
15th.
somebody will be up to take the registration at the clinic.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes. As they have done in the past. We will have on-site pet licensing at the clinic as well. And full details are in the newsletter. John, thank you for that. Michelle, thank you for that. Borough Hall is reopened. Because of Omicron, because of the spike, it was the right thing and we closed it down. Yet we're sorry that we had to do it, but we can do it, pretty much with our eyes closed now, and Michelle and everyone else seamlessly. So thank you to everyone for being so flexible and being able to continue to provide services to Allendale. As I said in the mayor's report in the newsletter, as I say now, even when we're closed, so many things can be done on the website. And so you don't need to come in.
Sorry to interrupt. Also, I give Tyler credit and Michelle's office, including Amanda Richards, with Tyler's, the company's phone system that we purchased. The phones were able to go home. Amanda Richards brought the phone home and she transferred from the phone's messages from her home. If you were calling in, you would think you were calling downstairs. So I give Tyler, I know I gave him a hard time during that. My pleasant self, sometimes I get a little upset, but the new phone system, we're saving money. It's a bit more efficient. And the clerk's office did a great job with it as a team.
Right.
If you called in, you wouldn't even know that you were talking to Amanda from her home and she was transferring the calls from there.
Right.
And if anyone's curious, yes, the phones do ring at 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. because I forgot to turn off the phone.
Yes. So no, I'm glad you did.
I didn't answer those
Right.
though.
No, it was a good interruption. It's good information. School election, the referendum, someone had mentioned earlier, Tuesday, March 8th, there will be the referendum for Northern Highlands Regional High School District. Voting will be from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Full details can be found in the voter's guide in our newsletter. And Valentine's Day is next week. That's
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, we have a land use meeting.
Land use
Land
meeting.
use meeting.
Woohoo. It's terrible.
Maurice told me already.
All right. So perhaps it's a blessing in disguise. All right, I have a meeting. I'm sorry.
You didn't say that.
What?
Sorry. That's the end of my report. We will now go to our professionals, etc. Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Please report to the best of my knowledge, there's no water committee meeting on Saturday or Sunday.
Yes.
But there could be, if you take your phone home with you, ring at 10, at 1, at 3.
I think there was an understatement about Tuesday morning meetings. But obviously that is taken up, a lot of time by all of us. And as Councilwoman Holman mentioned, certainly a working partnership with a lot of facets and a lot of people involved. Beyond that, my office, particularly TJ, has been working with Michelle in her office on a series of open requests, and I guess was greeted with another one or two today alone. The cell tower on the existing infrastructure, I know Tom from my office has been working on that. We have a request from the a carrier to add to the existing transmission line, so that's that discussion is pending. Working with Ron on a couple of COA related matters. And also on some property maintenance matters, and enjoying the fact that the chief has been good enough to run some personnel and policy matters by me, and I appreciate that. And that's I think the start of a good working relationship. That's it, Mayor.
Great, thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank John for all of his work on the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, and he put together a voter's guide. We've gotten several calls from residents about the referendum, so he put that together. Tatiana is busy with Oprah's, always. Amanda is right now working on pet licensing primarily, and we're also preparing for the compost permit season, which will start selling in March. And I just wanted to thank everybody, but especially John, who's been working also on getting all of the outstanding minutes done. So that for your consideration.
Great, thank you. As long as we're headed down the dais, Tyler?
Yeah, not too much has been going on.
Okay.
It's been good. Chief
Good.
and I have been spending a lot of time together, getting a lot of projects underway, a lot of upgrades, things that required attention to. We've been spending a lot of time there. As Ron mentioned, the phone system has luckily been a pretty well-oiled machine. I've been checking with the staff periodically in all the facilities. Everybody's been very happy. Everybody's acclimated to them, and it took a long time to get there. I'm not surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised that we're as smooth are. But that's when you put a lot of time in the beginning, it's the result you hope to get. So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you for your work. John?
Newsletter everyone's talking about, let's actually be going out tomorrow.
Right.
So thank you for everyone who submitted ideas and give their there's any last minutes, let me know. So no, thank you. It's really in the course of team effort. We all work well together, so it's a pleasure.
Great, and doing this stuff, I mean, you guys seamlessly, so I know it doesn't happen on its own. Thank you for that. Is Lisa, is she?
She is not.
She's not, okay. Ron?
I do have a few things this time. Okay. Both, we have all been busy with water, Mr. West and Mr. Vila, our engineer. Mike is getting me the specs. We'll have it on next meeting for the area of the beach that was destroyed by Tropical Storm Ida. The chief with his OEM hat as well. We've been working very well with the FEMA. He's actually getting some of the money already for the some of the beach repair the field repairs that we've done. So those specs will be completed. We're going to put it out to bid. It'd be probably February, March, April work weekend. So that's that. Got some very good news. Myself and Mr. Vreeland will be meeting Jason Alexander, who is representative of the county, Bergen County Engineering Department. Allendale was lucky enough to get on the paving program this year for the county, and looks like they'll be paving from Waldwick to Ramsey for us, and we just have to do the inlets first, the handicap curve. So that's great news there.
That is great news. Thank you for all that.
Yeah, that work, a lot of work involved in that. The downtown streetscape project, we thank the DOT for the money. The DOT is sometimes difficult to deal with. They approved it back a couple of months ago, phase 2 and 3, but they only gave us the okay to have a pre-construction meeting 2 nights ago. So I'll be dealing with the engineer, getting that meeting going, and that's still on schedule. That project will start, it'll be from the empty bank building to the post office, and from the driveway of where we stop by A, B, and G up to the cafe corner. So that'll be that, and we'll be putting in this year's bid grant request there. So that's going well. Happy to report the swing set, which is part of phase 3 of the playground, came in. Non-slice Frank Katrina was actually get some of the phase 2 started right before the inclement weather came. So that project will be, it's definitely on schedule for Memorial Day. I think we'll have it done sooner, including the safety surface part of it. So nice improvement on that end of things. I think one of our residents are here concerned about the shade tree repairs. It's been several years. We actually, lucky, I guess, we haven't had enough to mobilize, or actually for a separate spec bid for just that area. Today, as you saw, some trees came down on Park Avenue by where the new house is being built. That Park Avenue, Errol, the gentleman who's here, and Park Avenue, actually pretty on the corner of Park, Hillside and West Crescent. So we will have enough so it's actually part of the catch basin specs. Michelle is actually, give Michelle the credit. Her and we put and Mike put in there for additional money for sidewalks. So we'll get the sidewalks done in the spring when we start repairing catch basins. There is 2 catch basins and 1 manhole that needs to be done on Pine. As Councilman Sasser said, thank you for the comment on some of the projects. We had no heat here. It was it's an older boiler. Couldn't get some parts for it. The plumber we used did a great job. Heat's working very well now. Library's happy. There was some air in the system once we did the repairs. Due to Chief Dillon really making a lot of improvements over the police department. We found out about the heater in the garage not working. Got replaced yesterday, but we spent some money, but actually some things I wasn't even aware of. Lack of communication, I'm aware of it. We are looking at the new front door, back door security system, get that done as well. I'm jumping around. Met with John Robinson from Dewberry. Got more good news there. We're going to be cementing all of the monitoring wells and the other well on the front of my building. If we just have to pump out one more time, fill that, except for monitoring well 3 right by my front door. We'll test that in springtime high water level. I feel comfortable about that. And then the next step will be, as you go towards the old water building, there's some area that we need to excavate, keep the soil on 6-ply plastic for a while. That gets carted away. We put clean fill in, and I do have to, I'm going to be requesting a proposal from Mike for a spec on encapsulating, basically, coke base and pavement. I don't know what the spec is yet. You have to get the DOT spec. So I have to file. It might be 2-inch rolled, might be 4-inch rolled and 2-inch base, whatever it is. I'll get specs on it. So that's that. I think I copied some people on the email with I dealt with Mike, Mr. Vreeland again on the paving projects. We didn't pave last year due to COVID restrictions on the budget and just getting crews together because of COVID.
Right.
My recommendation will be coming to the facility committee and the DPW committee. I'm going to be recommending some of the commercial properties. Overall, if you drive around town with the warm weather, we're going to get some potholes. But overall, we're in pretty good shape in the residential areas, which the streets, because of the aggressive program that Mayor White and Mayor Barrett before you, Mayor, put in of two couple streets a year. That project has really saved the town. I mean, you drive around, we're again, knock on wood, we're going to have some potholes when the warm weather comes, but we're in pretty good shape. I'd like to get the commercial streets roads done. They are some big higher taxpayers, and they deserve, some coverage there too. She's gonna be a little shocked. I do want to thank Councilwoman Holman on this. We tease her a little bit about the water, but it is. I mean, once the referendum's done, it really became even more. I mean, she had to work this, get the word out and get the resolution, the referendum done. But as Mr. Wiss will tell you, this and this Councilman Lovasell, it is a lot of. I mean, I've been doing this a lot of years. I pride myself on pretty much knowing, and I won't say the word I was going to say, but certain things come up like, oh, I didn't think of that. And it really is a team effort. She puts her heart into it. You're in some of these meetings, most of these meetings, and stuff does come out. When we work really, you get frustrated. Last week I was annoyed. Monday I had a good meeting. Tuesday you read some Suez, okay, but that's not what I said, and then it becomes. Then we talk. There's a lot of meetings, a lot of good stuff, and it's great for this is one of the biggest deals for the town ever. It's really
think therapy dogs, Ron.
Yeah.
Yes. Where's Patty? We need those dogs.
One of the employees of Suez Water did notice me in the meeting. He goes, man, your facial expression, boy, you're gonna kill somebody. He said he's happy it's a Zoom meeting. So, but anyway, that's going really well. So I think I want to thank you. It's good leadership. You're doing a good job with it. And I know I annoy you sometimes, but you're doing a good job.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
I like somebody who challenges.
And then I said with Chief Dillon, it's been day and night better with the communication. It makes my life so much easier. I wear them both hats, DPW and the administrator. I'll give you an example. Back to the water. So we had a meeting with Suez. Not to hold it up. We had a meeting at the Biscayne tank, which is in Ramsey. On Monday, there's an easement that comes all the way down, comes out by East Crescent. We didn't know I was going to have to go on East Crescent. I said, I'm back. Chief, can you get me an officer for excuse me, 20 minutes we gotta go, actually, that pipe, the main comes out by 49 East Crescent, it's in the driveway, even the guys from Suez couldn't believe it. Not to embarrass you, he showed it himself, he was coming back from a meeting, he stopped, gave us 20 minutes, directed traffic.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, because one of the big things on the thing is where the easement is, where the easement was for this game tank. So again, team effort all over the place. Yeah, again, I think I covered I got the Dewberry thing. I told you about Franklin Turnpike, downtown streetscape project, Stonewall, playground equipment, the repairs here, a lot of good repairs here. And I just want to thank you, everybody on the council. You're there. It's good to work with you. It's goes well.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know, I mean, what you do, I mean, you take 48 hours and you cram it into 24, what you do. I mean, you're involved in everything here, and you're certainly one of the heroes that makes Allendale operate the way it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Dillon, so happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I definitely echo Ron's sentiment about the communication and collaboration between all borough officials. Even when Borough Hall was closed, I didn't even realize, I knew they were closed, but I really didn't realize they were closed.
Right.
Everybody was a phone call away and more than willing to step up and assist us even from home. So that was great. Thank you to Ron for arranging some much needed facility repairs at headquarters. There were some issues that needed to be dealt with immediately and without hesitation. Ron was on top of it, assigned a contractor or his own men, and even allocated some funds for us, which is super appreciated. Working with command and general staff and planning various initiatives throughout the year. Thank you to everyone here and our CFO, Alyssa Mayer, for their guidance and support over my first month. And for my OEM hat, in closing, I expect the borough-wide emergency operations plan to be approved by the state within the next few weeks. And I'm planning to hold a small drill sometime in summer to practice some of the resources listed in this plan. And Ron had mentioned the borough is starting to receive reimbursement funds from repairs subsequent to Tropical Storm Ida.
Great. Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're going to now open the floor to the public on any matter at all. So you've all waited patiently. Forrest, come on up.
So while you're coming up for us, I'll just remind everybody. So Forrest, last name Pabry, you pronounce that correctly?
Pabry, yeah.
Okay, so Porras is a junior in Northern Highlands. He is an Eagle Scout candidate. Amy and I met with him yesterday. We walked around Crestwood and I sent pictures today about some other locations. And his Eagle Scout project, which has not been approved yet by Scout leadership, but is a peace pole, and you can take it from there.
Got it.
And just for the records, your name and address.
Yes. So my name is Forrest Pabry. I live on 963 or 961 Franklin Turnpike. And so I'd like to first thank you all for taking the time to listen to me today. So my project, as Mr. Sasso said, is a peace pole. So I have a picture right here. And this is essentially what it looks like. This is basically what a peace pole, like this is the whole setup kind of. This is the finished product. And this is what I kind of want to bring to Allendale. So basically, what is my project? So I'm trying to bring these peace poles into our community because they have such a huge symbolic representation of peace and unity among the world, like as a whole, like internationally. So you might be asking, like, what exactly is a peace pole? So peace poles are an internationally recognized symbol of hope, unity, and peace. So there's over 100,000 that have been established all over the world. And if you see this, you can automatically associate it with world peace. And that's why I want to really bring this into our community for my Eagle Scout project. So for specifics, I just want to keep it brief. I don't want to take too much time. If you guys would like, I can prepare a full presentation. You can come back for next meeting and give you guys all the specifics. So for the actual location, what I would really like to put it is, if you guys know what I mean, like in Crestwood, you enter from the road and there's like the parking lot by the Red Barn and there's a little island kind of with the trees, like the two trees. So I would really like to put it there. So the reason why is because it has such a huge symbolic representation of peace and unity all around the world. And these peace poles serve as a constant reminder for us to visualize and pray for world peace and conflicts for resolutions. So basically, I understand that a big concern is the 9/11 memorial, and I obviously don't want to detract any attention from that. And I actually think it's really perfect to put these peace poles right by that, because we can obviously see that what happened with 9/11 wasn't good. And I really think that putting these peace poles right opposite it can really show the entire town, whole country in a general, all the neighboring towns, that this is what we want, and that this peace is something that we want to maintain. So I would like to thank you guys all for your time. Thank you for consideration, listening to me. And this is my proposal.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the website is worldpeace.org/peace pole project for anybody that wants to learn more.
Yeah, that has all the information regarding what the meaning behind this is, where it originated in, I think, Japan, like all the way back in the 1900s. This is a globally recognized association with world peace, as Mr. Sasso said. Are there any questions?
I have a comment, just, I mean, it's great. I know getting to be able to even bring an Eagle Scout project forward is a tremendous amount of work, you know, all the way from the time you've entered into Boy Scouts. So congratulations on getting to that point where you're considering putting together the Eagle Scout project. And it was interesting because Amy had met with you, and since we talk about 1,000 times a day on things, it was great to hear about that. I don't know what the location should be, but it really, the idea of it was very warming. So.
And the website's actually cool. There's a lot of really beautiful looking
Yeah,
ones. So.
So anyway, just thank you so much for continuing. That's, I mean, I just think scouting is a great way to go, and these Eagle Scout projects are, you know, you sound like you're really very passionate about it. So.
Thank you so much. I really am passionate. Actually, to go off what you said, for the actual location, as I mentioned earlier, preferably I would like to keep it in the middle, just to like sort of let everyone see how important this world peace and international symbol is to us as a community. And I know one of the locations we discussed was by the basketball court, like right in that little corner area. But the only problem is I don't want to put it like necessarily next to the dumpster, just because I don't want to.
No, we wouldn't want it next to the dumpster either.
Yeah.
We talked about Orchard Common Park, and then we talked
then
about
Orchard
going into
Common
the
Park, yeah,
grandstand to
too.
the right
Which
there.
I do, like Amy mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, it's cool because people go into that parking lot to pick up kids. There's
So
a
I
lot of
walked it, I went
games.
down there today.
Yeah, I
and
don't know if it's appropriate.
I took some pictures and I sent you one picture. I think that's a possibly good spot over there by the brook at Brookside. And then I think Orchard Common Park is a nice, quiet, passive place with not much going on right now. So maybe this would help attract people. I see some people walking with coffee and sitting, and it might be nice to contemplate, meditate, whatever you want to do down there too. So we'll talk.
Gotcha.
It's also important to point out that there are 3 poles.
The 3 poles, yes.
Because it's in 12 languages, 4 languages on each pole.
Yeah.
Equals 12 languages.
languages.
I was a finance major, by the way.
Counting next year.
And it includes a lot of languages, including Braille and American Sign Language.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great.
Oh, and by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the actual message on the pole will be, "May peace and unity prevail on earth." So that's basically the whole ideology behind this whole movement. So I kind of want to just bring that movement into our community that way.
That's great. And wherever it goes, I mean, we're thrilled that you're spearheading it, and to Councilwoman Holman's comments about scouting, et cetera, but to bring that kind of message to Allendale, we appreciate that. We thank you for it.
So we'll discuss it more in committee and socialize it with the full mayor and council. In the meantime, stay in touch.
Gotcha.
Anything changes, and especially let us know what your scout leadership says.
All right. I'll definitely let you guys know.
Okay,
Great.
Thanks, of course.
Thank you.
What's your time frame? Once you get approval, what you get it done by, what's your time frame?
So I'm thinking that I would like to get all of my paperwork, like from like approvals to my Boy Scout approval from the actual Boy Scout Council. I really want to try to get that done by June 1st, because June 20th, I believe, is the summer solstice. I believe that would be a great day to sort of like inaugurate the polls. So that's kind of like the time frame. I
Okay.
don't have any specifics
Cool.
for like
Okay.
that way. But like that.
Any help you need from the DPW, let me know.
I do.
Good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks,
you.
Boris.
Anyone else from the public? Go ahead, Mr. Savastano, then Mr. Whitmer.
Mayor and Council, Mark Savastano, 22 Greenland Place. I want to thank Steve for attending the Green Team meeting. He was an active participant and he passionately discussed that issue about the debating. And that was raised also in connection with another conversation that we had with the garden club who attended the meeting and expressed some concerns about using organic landscaping in the borough. And it was mentioned by Steve that we should bring this issue up to Mr. Kistner. So I'd like to share that information.
When you get,
Email.
I've been doing fields for 20 years and I got a different opinion, I think, on it than you do, but we can
Okay.
discuss it.
Yeah, that, I just wanted
You can
to,
bring it, when you get the numbers, you can bring them, we'll
Yeah.
discuss it. No
Okay.
problem.
And also with respect to the issue I brought up at the last meeting, thank you, Mr. Wiss, for the information you provided. And Ron, you mentioned about that. being
Yeah, there
part
just
of-
wasn't enough, there wasn't enough to be done to mobilize.
I wanted to make a suggestion in that regard, and you mentioned how well that program works where you do a certain number of streets a year. And I thought perhaps the sidewalks could follow that same program where you address any sidewalks that are the purview of the borough and do them at the same time. So while you're preparing to do the streets, find out if there's any sidewalks that are also in need of repair in that regard and address them together. Because I had, like I mentioned, originally brought this up several years ago about that particular sidewalk. And I'm glad that there's a clarification of who is responsible. And that would be a good opportunity to keep the sidewalks in good condition. I walk a lot. I know I've seen you, Mayor, jogging through town.
Sure.
And good sidewalks are not only safer, it looks better in the community. So thank you for your.
Mark, I have something
Thank you for
I
that,
just
Mark.
would like to
Yeah.
ask. I feel like the Green Team, if there's an initiative that I think would be incredibly valuable, that wouldn't cost the borough any money, but, and in fact, could save the borough and really our Mother Earth in many ways, is to provide an educational program on the composting units. I mean, if we
yeah.
compost and the amount, the weight of like a watermelon rind, if you chop it up, we pay by, weight, right, Ron, on our garbage. And to be able to educate Allendale residents about how to compost, where to get the green machine from the
Yes.
Bergen County Utility Authority. Maybe there could be a program, a Saturday where they bring, a bunch of them up here and there's a program about how to compost effectively,
Yes.
how to use the gardening club, how do you take that earth out because it stinks like hell.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Sorry, it smells. But you know what I mean? Like that to me, the Green Team there
Yes.
can make an initiative that really can make a difference both individually and also as a borough.
Yep.
And it doesn't cost the borough any money because I think that's, an important part of what, is a challenge.
Yeah,
that
well,
initiative.
and I mention that here all the time, that I'm absolutely in favor of doing this without costing the borough any money. I've mentioned it to Suzanne at our meetings. And I'm grateful for your suggestion because, we're looking for many different ways to make the town more sustainable and to get that information out. Just like Steve mentioned about having people aware, not just passing the ordinance, but also making people aware that it exists. So I've been working with John to get our name out in the newsletter, have people know that we are here in town and what we stand for. Yes, so thank you for that suggestion. And thank you, Mayor and Council.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Walter? Great to see you.
Walter Whitmer, 38 Hamilton. Very quickly, I want to thank Michelle for the time she took to help me become educated relative to the business that she performs for us. She took a lot of time to answer my questions, of which there were many. And there will be more coming. Number two, about 2 months ago, a young lady, compared to me, she's young, came to our door and offered me a bag full of goodies. And I was very surprised to see it. And I asked her, what was this for? And she said, we help the kids in our town so often, and we thought we'd do something for, quote, the elderly. And
Maybe we need a
unfortunately,
script. Get in trouble with that.
I'm way over the hill. And I hear today that Amy is the person behind this whole project. And I would like everybody to know that she did this for us. It was really, really appreciated. Not the fact that we're old, but the goodies. Thank you. You're a sweetheart. And so are you.
Amy keeps the elderly list.
Walter, you're not calling at 3 o'clock in the morning, are you?
Great.
Might have been lost.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Not seeing anyone. Thank you, everyone, for participating. A very uplifting, spirited meeting. So happy to have everyone back in person. I would request a motion to adjourn the regular
So
session.
moved, Coleman.
Second,
O'Connell.
thank you, Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.